It happened 66 million years ago. Hey, it could have been September. A massive asteroid slammed into Earth, bringing along chaos and devastation. The tragic aftermath of the terrifying collision led to the extinction of dinosaurs. Yes, I'm talking about the Chicxulub asteroid that left a massive crater in Mexico and changed life on Earth forever. And now, it turns out it wasn't the only cosmic rock to hit our planet during that time. Scientists have just confirmed there was another asteroid. This second space rock wasn't as big as Chicxulub, but it still packed a punch. It crashed to the ground off the coast of West Africa, smashing into the ocean and leaving a crater called the Nadir crater. And tell you what, it wasn't a small splash. The impact was so powerful, it triggered a whole tsunami. It was more than 2,600 feet high, almost as high as the Burj Khalifa, the tallest man-made structure in the world. But how did we come to the conclusion that there was a second impact? Well, this researcher spotted the Nadir crater in 2022. Dr. Nicholson was looking for some high-tech scans of the ocean floor when he noticed a massive 5.5-mile-wide depression under almost 1,000 feet of water. Well, he thought it could be an asteroid impact crater, but at the time, the evidence he had wasn't solid. But now, scientists have confirmed that this is the real deal. A second asteroid did hit Earth during the dinosaur extinction era. Now, let's see how they figured all this out. For one thing, there were those super high-resolution 3D seismic images. They allowed researchers to peel back layers of the ocean floor and get a crystal-clear look at the crater. It was like going from a blurry old ultrasound to the kind of 3D scans where you can see every little feature. Their findings confirm that the crater was left by an asteroid, somewhere between 1,500 to 1,640 feet wide. And it didn't just create a hole in the ground. The impact was so intense that it produced a central peak, formed escalating ridges around the crater, and even left a damage zone that stretched out for thousands of miles. Using those super detailed images, the scientists have managed to reconstruct what happened right after the asteroid hit the surface of our planet. First, it slammed into the ocean, creating an initial bowl-shaped crater. As the shockwave spread, the seabed was shaken so violently that it triggered landslides, and the soft sediment surrounding the crater collapsed inward, creating a noticeable brim. As you already know, the impact also triggered a tsunami, and it was so shockingly powerful that its waves didn't just go outward, they actually turned back towards the crater, leaving huge scars on the ocean floor. And this wasn't just one big wave. No, it was a whole series of them, a train of tsunamis smashing everything in their path. Now, this second asteroid impact is a huge deal for scientists. It's a rare opportunity to study a marine impact crater in such incredible detail. There are only about 20 confirmed marine craters in the world, and none of them have been captured with this level of precision before. Plus, this data allows scientists to test new ideas about how craters form in water. You see, unlike craters on land, marine craters are hidden under layers of sediment, which makes them tricky to study. But with this new 3D imaging, we can look at the crater in all its layers. It's like slicing into a cake to see what's inside. Dr. Nicholson and his team are now dreaming of drilling into the crater and recovering samples from deep below the ocean floor. This would allow them to measure the shock pressure during the impact and figure out what happened in the minutes, hours, and days following the collision. Of course, the Chicxulub asteroid is still the star of the show when it comes to the dinosaurs' extinction. This space traveler was giant, somewhere between 6 and 9 miles wide. It hit Earth at a devastating angle, sending vaporized rock and gas into the atmosphere. It caused an impact winter that lasted for 15 years, because all that stuff blocked out the sun and plunged Earth into darkness. Now, probably the most intriguing thing is that some experts think the Nadir asteroid might have been a chunk that had broken off from Chicxulub before it hit Earth. It's still just a theory, but if true, it could mean that Earth got hit by a double whammy from space. Now, let's travel back in time to the year 1908 in Siberia. Look around. You see nothing but trees and rivers. And suddenly, a huge object, around 150 to 300 feet in diameter, dashes through the Earth's atmosphere. Is it a comet? An asteroid? Scientists aren't sure. What they do know for sure is that this intruder blew up in the sky over Tunguska, leading to one of the most powerful blasts in recorded history. It completely leveled the forest below, knocking out 80 million trees over an area of around 830 square miles. And that's an area larger than that of cities like Los Angeles or New York. The trees were literally flattened, and their trunks were stripped of branches. They were also arranged in a bizarre radial pattern around the epicenter. But what if this explosion had happened over a city? Every single building would have been destroyed, and countless lives would have been lost. Luckily, this disaster occurred in a super remote part of Siberia. The creepiest thing, though? When scientists finally reached the area years later, they found no impact crater. No wonder it led to even more mystery. The most logical explanation is that when the object went off in the sky, probably around 3 to 6 miles above the ground, it blew up before it could hit the ground, and still, it didn't stop the blast from leveling an entire forest. Fast forward to 2013 and another mind-blowing event, this time over a much more populated area, the city of Chelyabinsk. It was a regular February morning when an asteroid about 60 feet in diameter entered Earth's atmosphere, lighting up the sky. It was moving at a staggering speed of around 43,000 miles per hour. It blew up in midair, about 18 miles above the city. It was a horrific view, but luckily, the asteroid disintegrated high enough in the atmosphere without hitting the ground. If it had touched down, the city would have been in big trouble, because even though there was no direct impact, the explosion still created a shockwave that tore through the atmosphere, hitting the ground with enough force to shatter windows all over the place. The blast damaged around 7,200 buildings, but fortunately, there were no direct fatalities. Still, it was a major wake-up call. This wasn't just some far-off cosmic event like Tunguska. This asteroid exploded over a modern populated area, and the damage was very real. The good news? Scientists are getting better at spotting such objects before they get too close. Space agencies around the world, like NASA, are tracking near-Earth objects to figure out which ones could pose a risk. But as we can see from these two events, sometimes space rocks can still sneak up on us. And while the chances of a major impact are low, the stakes are really high. At the moment, there's one asteroid that NASA's keeping an eye on. It's called Bennu, and it's about the same size as the Nader impactor. Bennu is considered one of the most hazardous objects in near-Earth orbit. According to NASA, there's a small chance it could hit the Earth between the years 2178 and 2290, and the biggest risk date is September 24, 2182. But don't freak out just yet. The odds of the impact are only 1 in 2,700, but still, it's a reminder that Earth is always in the cosmic firing line. For millions of years, something has been lurking in the depths of the ocean. You can't see it, touch it, or map with sonar, yet it keeps entire species trapped where they are. Recently, scientists uncovered its victims, strange jellyfish cousins that look almost identical, except for one odd detail. One travels the world's oceans, the other is stuck in the Arctic, unable to escape. What blocks its way? It's not ice, not land, not even depth, something far stranger. Let's take a look at this mystery. The jellyfish in question belong to a subspecies with a pretty complicated and hard-to-pronounce name, so I won't. See? Anyway, they live very deep in the ocean, about 3,300 to 6,600 feet down. That's so deep that sunlight doesn't even bother showing up there. The strange thing is that some of these jellyfish have a little bump or knob on top of their umbrella-shaped body, and others don't. And this tiny difference decides their entire life story. Jellyfish with a knob are world travelers found across all oceans. Jellyfish without a knob are stuck in the Arctic, like they're grounded for life. To figure out what was going on, scientist Javier Montenegro and his team looked back at more than 120 years of jellyfish photos and sightings. Then they added in modern DNA testing. The results were curious. Genetically, the knobless and knob jellyfish in the Arctic were identical to knob species in the western Atlantic. In any case, this bizarre similarity aside, only the knobless jellyfish are trapped in the north. So, what's keeping them from leaving? It's not a giant underwater wall or a rocky barrier. Instead, scientists think the wall is biological or linked to geography. Just like something called the Wallace line, nature's invisible border. So imagine sailing on a boat in Indonesia, crossing from the island of Bali to the island of Lombok. It's only about 22 miles, not even enough for a long nap on deck. Once you're there, the beaches look the same, the weather feels the same, and the palm trees all sway the same way. But when you look at the animals, it feels like stepping into a different universe. Birds, mammals, even reptiles suddenly don't match what you just saw a short distance away. That invisible line dividing the two worlds is the very Wallace line. The story began in 1859. Alfred Russel Wallace, a British naturalist, traveled through the East Indies. While hopping between islands, he noticed something that didn't make sense. On the western islands, like Borneo and Bali, the animals all look like they belong to Asia – monkeys, tigers, woodpeckers, the usual. But east, the animals seem to have come straight out of Australia. Marsupials, cockatoos, even kangaroo cousins. The two sides weren't blending at all. Wallace realized that a narrow stretch of water could act like a massive biological border. How could two islands, close enough to see across the water, host such different wildlife? The line is not just some quirk of nature, but the result of powerful geological forces. Between the islands, there are underwater trenches that have never dried up, even when ancient sea levels rose and fell. To the west, you can find the Sunda Shelf. That's an enormous sunken platform that once connected Asia to nearby islands. That's why Borneo, Sumatra, and Java are packed with Asian-style wildlife. To the east is the Sahel Shelf. It once linked Australia and New Guinea, helping Australian species spread. The Wallace line slices right between these shelves. This part of the world, the Indo-Australian archipelago, is where four massive tectonic plates slam into each other. As the seas rose, animals became trapped on islands. When seas fell, some species made it across, but not so many. That's why two islands, separated by just a short boat ride, ended up with completely different ecosystems. The Wallace line isn't some recent discovery. This invisible border has been messing with animals for millions of years. Now, back in the Pleistocene, when giant mammoths roamed our planet and the oceans were up to 400 feet lower, many of the islands in Indonesia were actually connected. Tigers and elephants could stroll from place to place without ever touching water. But even when sea levels dropped that much, Asia and Australia never linked up. There was always a stretch of really deep water between them, and that watery gap acted like an uncrossable wall. For more than 50 million years, it's been stopping animals from mixing, keeping Asia's lineup on one side and Australia's weird crew on the other. That middle zone of islands, the ones stranded between the two continents, is called Wallacea. Only animals that could swim, fly, or somehow make it across the open ocean managed to live there. Everyone else was stuck at home, no exceptions. As you see, there can be a logical scientific explanation for almost any phenomenon on Earth. Maybe we could find one of those poor trapped jellyfish. Apparently, the problem lies in the North Atlantic Drift. It's a warm current that flows up from the Gulf Stream. Scientists don't know exactly why, but something about this area blocks the knobless jellyfish. One theory claims that predators beyond the drift are too dangerous for these creatures. Another idea is that the knob itself somehow gives jellyfish an edge in survival, but no one really knows. For now, it's like an invisible border. Knob jellyfish pass, knobless jellyfish stay put. On the Pacific side of the Arctic, there's no need for a mysterious barrier. The Bering Strait already does the job. On average, it's only 165 feet deep, which is way too shallow for deep-sea creatures to get through. So these jellyfish, knob or no knob, can't escape south. And since we're back at the topic of animal life, let's speak a bit more about the weird fauna quirks of the Wallace line, because animals are the easiest way to see this barrier in action. Birds, for example, often refuse to cross even the tiniest gaps of open water, so their species stop right at the line. Mammals are even stricter. Bats can cross because they fly, but larger land animals never made the jump. On the Australian side, it's all about marsupials like kangaroos and possums. You'll also find native rodents that settled there more recently. On the Asian side, you get a different cast: apes, elephants, tigers, cats, monkeys, rhinos. Sure, there are some oddball exceptions. Sulawesi, right in the middle of the divide, has macaques, pigs, and big-eyed little tarsiers. But overall, the split is obvious. Step off the boat, and the animal world changes completely. But then, what about plants? Well, they don't always follow the rules as neatly. Seeds can hitch rides on birds, float on water, or get blown by the wind. But even here, the Wallace line shows up. Take eucalyptus trees, for example. They're as Australian as kangaroos. Almost no species make it across to Asia. There's just one exception, which somehow popped up on Sulawesi and the Philippines. That's the magic of the Wallace line. Two islands can look the same climate, same forests, sometimes even close enough that you can see across the strait. But their animals are like night and day. And it's all because of an invisible border in the sea that's been in place for millions of years. Such discoveries might sound small, but they're important. They show us that there are still hidden boundaries in the ocean that humans don't understand. These invisible fences could explain how marine animals spread, evolve, and survive. As scientists put it, finding two different body shapes inside a single genetic family shows how little we know about jellyfish and other gelatinous creatures. As for the Wallace line, even today, it stands as one of the most fascinating mysteries in biogeography. It reminds us that life doesn't always spread evenly. Sometimes, a short stretch of water can act like an uncrossable wall. There's a lot more mystery in the deep sea than we thought. It was in the year 2014 when a satellite snapped a picture of something unusual in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It was a giant, almost perfect ring floating all by itself. It was an eerie sight. This formation showed up thousands of miles southwest of Hawaii and was about 280 miles wide. Who created this ring? How did it appear there? The questions were countless. The huge ring was spotted by NASA's Terra satellite with the help of a special camera called MODIS. Later, after examining the images, scientists realized that the ring was made out of perfectly shaped clouds. Even though clouds like this aren't super rare, it's not common to see one that big and completely on its own. Normally, such clouds show up in groups, not just hanging out solo in the middle of nowhere. The ring is made of puffy cumulus clouds. It turned out that it had been shaped by something called a Rayleigh-Bernard convection cell. It's a fancy schmancy way of saying that the clouds formed when warm air rose and cooler air sank, creating a circular pattern. Now, there are two types of such cloud cells. One is a closed cell, where cold air sinks around the edges and clouds pop up in the middle. The other is an open cell, where cold air sinks in the center and clouds form around the outside. And that giant ring floating over the ocean was exactly a closed cell, hence its cool shape. Interestingly, such cloud patterns usually look like a bunch of hexagons packed together, like a beehive in the sky. But this one was out there all by itself, which made it even more eye-catching. Now let's take a look at how the ring's formation happened in detail, shall we? At one point, the sun heated up the water or land, warming the air above it. That warm air got lighter and started rising. Cumulus clouds formed. Maybe it even rained a bit. When that rain came down, it cooled the air beneath the clouds. That cooler air then sank and spread out in all directions. But when it ran into the surrounding warmer air, it pushed the warm air upward again. That's how the ring of clouds formed around the original spot. This whole thing happened just south of the Intertropical Convergence Zone, a region near the equator where trade winds meet and often cause thunderstorms and heavy rain. That particular location probably helped with the formation of this cool cloud pattern too. Now, take a look at the right side of the satellite image. The ocean looks super shiny there, almost like silver. That shiny effect is called sunglint. It happens when sunlight reflects directly off the ocean's surface and hits a satellite camera just right. It kind of turns the sea into a ginormous swirling mirror. The cool thing is that the texture of the water, whether it's smooth or choppy, changes how that sunglint looks. Most of the time, the wind stirs up the surface, creating waves. These waves normally scatter the sunlight in different directions. But some of that light still hits the satellite, so the area looks shiny. But sometimes, if the water is super calm or there's a break in the wave pattern, it can create darker patches where less light gets reflected back. It gives sunglint zones a strange, patchy look. So if you notice really dark spots in satellite images, keep in mind that they might not be shadows or oil spills. Most likely, they're just signs of how the wind and waves are behaving on the surface of the ocean. Now, at the same time, it's not just weak winds that can smooth out the water. According to an oceanography professor from the University of South Florida, other stuff like freshwater, ship wakes, and even natural ocean movement, such as underwater waves or currents, can change the water's texture too. And all these phenomena can mess with how the sunlight reflects, which, in turn, can cause weird patterns in the images. Some of the darker lines you can see, for example, inside places like Delaware Bay or Chesapeake Bay, might be freshwater mixed with things like algae, dissolved plant material, or even natural oils. But those patches aren't usually as big as the giant dark blob they saw off Delmarva. It happened on May 6, 2023, when the ocean just east of the Delmarva Peninsula was super calm. There was barely any wind. So the surface of the water was all smooth and glassy like a giant mirror, and the angle was just right to make it look dark. Now, even though these sunglint effects make for some stunning satellite pictures, they can be annoying for scientists who are trying to study the color of the ocean or track things like phytoplankton blooms. Basically, sunglint can cover up the stuff they actually want to see. So, to work around that, scientists and engineers have built tools to either fix the data afterward or design sensors that avoid the glare in the first place. For example, the new Ocean Color instrument on NASA's upcoming PACE mission is designed to tilt just enough to dodge the worst of the sun's reflection. Oh, by the way, NASA scientist Ralph Kahn reminds us that our eyes can deceive us, judging brightness based on what's around it. So even a dark patch in an image might actually be pretty bright. It just looks dark compared to the shiny parts nearby. Now, let's tilt our heads back to the night sky. See that weird glowing spiral? Looks pretty extraterrestrial, doesn't it? Well, chances are it was just a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket doing its thing. When these rockets launch satellites into orbit, they sometimes dump leftover fuel once they're high up in the atmosphere. That fuel freezes and starts spinning around as the rocket moves. It looks like a mini ice tornado in space. But what makes it look even crazier is sunlight. Even if it's dark where you are, the rocket's way up high where the sun can still hit it. The light reflects off the icy fuel spiral, making it glow. Just a bit of night sky drama, but nothing mysterious. Now, let's admit it, you aren't likely to see a real-life flying saucer. What you can see, though, is a lenticular cloud, which looks pretty much the same if you ask me. These clouds pop up high in the sky, usually around mountains, where moist air flows over them just right. Even though the wind is moving super fast, these clouds just kind of hang there, totally still, like someone has parked them there. They're usually perfectly shaped, smooth, and saucer-like. And still, it's just nature showing off again.
3, 2, 1.
Another kind of weird stuff you might see in the sky is space junk. When satellites stop working, a lot of them are just left behind, floating around. Eventually, they slow down because of atmospheric drag and start falling back to Earth. When they do, they light up the sky like massive fireballs. Sometimes it can last for nearly a minute. As the pieces burn up, the different materials they contain can create colorful streaks in the sky. And once in a while, chunks actually survive the trip and crash land on Earth. The leftover bits are often twisted and scorched, and they look so strange that people sometimes think they're wreckage of spaceships from another planet. But nope, just another piece of our own space clutter coming home. Now, look at this. A plane is flying straight toward the horizon and leaving behind a long contrail. You know, that artificial cloud from engine exhaust? And in some cases, it can look like something is falling from the sky. The wind can blow those trails wider, making the whole picture seem even more dramatic because it looks like smoke from a crashing object. Add in the red glow from a setting sun and, well, it looks like something is on fire and plummeting to Earth. Plus, if sunlight reflects off the bottom of the plane just right, it can look like there's a glowing core in the crashing cloud. But the giveaway is the speed, slow. Real falling objects, especially from space, zip across the sky at thousands of miles per hour. So if it's barely moving, it's probably just a plane. Nothing to worry about. Wink wink. Okay, it's pop quiz time. What's the strongest river in the world? The Amazon? Pfft, rookie guess. No, really. The mightiest river isn't on land at all. It's underwater, and it's called the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, or ACC for friends. This beast flows with a force 100 times stronger than the Amazon River, and it could power over 100,000 hydroelectric plants. That's enough electricity to light up entire continents. But this underwater juggernaut doesn't just flex its muscles for fun. It's the planet's ultimate multitasker. The ACC is Earth's thermostat, carbon vacuum, climate stabilizer, and oceanic superhighway all rolled into one. But here's the not-so-fun part. Scientists have spotted a serious red flag. The ACC is slowing down. And not just by a little bit. We're talking up to 20% weaker by 2050. If this trend continues, we're looking at climate chaos that could make your worst Monday feel like a day at the spa. So, maybe time to panic a little? Well, hold on. So what is the ACC anyways? To learn more about it, we need to dive deep into the ocean, figuratively. The Antarctic Circumpolar Current is the only ocean current that flows all the way around the planet, hugging the cold continent of Antarctica like a belt of water. Unlike other currents that get tripped up by continents, the ACC has a clear racetrack, nothing but open ocean, so it flows uninterrupted through the Drake Passage between South America and Antarctica. It moves an astonishing 3.6 billion cubic feet of water per second. That's so much water we couldn't find anything to compare it to, sorry. The ACC is driven by ferocious westerly winds, moving eastward to connect the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans into one continuous supercurrent. It also plunges into abyssal depths, connecting shallow, intermediate, and deep waters into one giant, swirling blender of oceanic energy. Now, to put it simply, it may be too late for that, but I'll try. The ACC is the glue that is keeping all of our planet together. It plays a starring role in the thermohaline circulation, or global conveyor belt, if you don't want to sound lame. This is the system that redistributes heat, carbon, and nutrients around the globe. To make it all work, the ACC pushes nutrient-rich deep water to the surface in a process called upwelling, feeding plankton, krill, whales, and eventually sushi on your plate. That means if you love seafood or care about ocean food chains at all, you should really start paying attention. Without this nutrient cycling, marine life from the bottom to the top of the food web suffers. Now, here's the cool part. While it's busy playing waiter to the sea, the ACC is also doing our laundry. Well, sort of. It absorbs massive amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and stores it in the deep ocean, locking it away for centuries. Think of it like Earth's giant carbon vault, no password required. It also helps regulate the weather. Without the ACC pushing heat around the globe, Western Europe would be 50 degrees colder. That means Paris would feel like Siberia, and Londoners would have to trade their umbrellas for snowshoes. The current helps maintain the temperature balance between the hemispheres, stabilizing wind patterns, rainfall, and ocean temperatures around the world. Even hurricane patterns could change because warm ocean surfaces are a key ingredient for cyclone formation. Mess with the currents, and you might be dialing up stronger, weirder storms. So, why is it slowing down? Well, of course, the answer is humans. You know those ice caps that are melting? Well, in Antarctica, where our friend the ACC lives, there's so much ice that if all of it melted, the Earth would rise more than 200 feet. That's taller than Cinderella's castle. What's worse, 60% of all the fresh water in the world is frozen in that ice. While that much water melting is already terrifying, it's the freshness of the water that really messes things up. You see, the ACC relies on the Southern Ocean's cold, salty water to be dense and heavy so it can sink, which helps power the current forward like a chain reaction. But when fresh water from melting glaciers pours into the ocean, it dilutes the saltiness. That makes the water less dense, so it stops sinking properly. Without that sink and flush mechanism, the ACC can't maintain its powerful flow. It's like trying to flush a toilet with no gravity. As this continues, fresh water flows north, altering the ocean's density structure and counteracting the effects of ocean warming, which normally would speed the current up. Instead, the ACC slows down. A weaker ACC means less upwelling, so fewer nutrients reach the surface. This could devastate Antarctic marine ecosystems, reducing biodiversity, collapsing fisheries, and threatening species like penguins, whales, and krill. It also opens the door in Antarctica to invasive species, like the southern bull kelp, which could throw entire food chains into chaos. Krill alone are the main food source for whales, seals, penguins, and fish. So when krill populations crash, the whole system begins to wobble like a house of cards in a hurricane. And then there's the feedback loop from hell. As the ACC weakens, more warm water can sneak southward, reaching Antarctica and melting the ice even faster. That melting will dump more fresh water into the ocean, which will weaken the current even more, which will melt more ice, and you get the idea. It's a vicious cycle. Worse still, warm waters underneath ice shelves can cause them to break apart from below, meaning the melting accelerates even when surface temperatures seem stable. Globally, the effects would ripple far and wide. Monsoons in India could become erratic, rainfall in the Amazon could drop, and agriculture from Africa to Asia could suffer. Sea levels along the east coast of North America could surge, and global weather patterns could spin into confusion. Even the Southern Ocean's ability to support commercial fisheries, like Chile's lucrative salmon industry, could decline as nutrients fail to reach the surface. And let's not forget, without a strong ACC, the ocean's ability to absorb carbon and excess heat plummets. That means that more CO2 and heat will stay in the atmosphere, making our lives even more miserable. It's like turning off Earth's air conditioner while cranking up the furnace, and burning down the pantry while you're at it. Of course, this isn't the first time things went south with the ocean currents. Before humans started heating up the planet, Earth went through a deep freeze called the Little Ice Age, and it wasn't just about colder winters. This icy chapter may have kicked off when ocean currents in the North Atlantic started acting weird. And it wasn't so long ago. This Little Ice Age had a peak in 1850, literally yesterday. Scientists believe that melting glaciers and massive exports of Arctic sea ice flooded the ocean with fresh water. That fresh water messed with the ocean's usual saltiness and density, weakening powerful systems like the AMOC, short for Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation. That's a mouthful. It's another crucial piece of the global conveyor belt puzzle. As these currents slowed down, less warm water reached the north, sea ice spread farther, and temperatures dropped even more. And here's the spooky part. Records from seashells near Iceland show that this shift didn't happen all at once. It came in two waves, like the planet was struggling to stay stable before tipping into a colder world. And because the AMOC is also part of the crazy life support system of planet Earth, everything is connected. Both systems are influenced by temperature, salinity, and the sinking of cold water. When the ACC slows, it can alter the balance of deep water formation and mixing, potentially weakening the AMOC too. That's a domino effect you really don't want to see. In fact, some models suggest that if both the ACC and AMOC are pushed past their tipping points, The result could be centuries of unstable climate conditions, way beyond anything modern agriculture or infrastructure is built to handle. So, next time you're sipping a cold drink or enjoying sushi, maybe raise a toast to the mighty ACC. It's doing a lot more for you than you think, and it could really use a little appreciation and less ice melting, please.